Welcome to the All in Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify and stay tuned for our weekly episodes. My name is Lydia, and joining us today this week is Irina Constantinescu, who is the people partner for tech recruitment and employer branding at Groundfog. Hello, Irina. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Lydia. Thank you for the invitation. It's really awesome to be here.
So, Irina, you've worked in the recruitment space, mainly technical recruitment for a few years now. And in recent years, you've also worn many hats. What kind of aspects of people and HR do you have to look into while you help companies build their people strategies from the ground up?
You kind of need to have a lot of things in mind when starting on, let's say, an HR department. You need to start with the priorities, right? You need to have some admin functions. I'm talking here about contracts, salary, so on and so forth. So you need to make sure that you're offering all the support to the people that work for you, right? No matter where they are employed. Second of all, of course, you need to be in line with the business strategy, and you need to make sure that you are also putting in the effort in the recruitment side. You need to make sure that you're bringing the human capital topic into HR, and you need to make sure that you're also providing the support for the business to fill in the roles that you might have open and that are necessary for the business. Another topic would be, so you hire people, you're offering them support, but you also need to retain them, right? We're talking about a really competitive market. We're talking about people maybe staying 1, 2, 3 months, testing out the company and then moving on if they are not happy. So you need to make sure, especially in the first months of employment, you need to make sure that you offer them a great onboarding experience, that they are receiving all the support they can get. You need to make sure that they are happy with their project, with the technologies that they use, so on and so forth. When you're hiring someone, you're making some promises. They are also making some promises to you. So I think it's a two-way street, and both parties need to hold on to their promises. So yes, retention, hiring, recruitment, admin topics. There are a lot of sub-tasks when you're an HR, especially if you're alone in a startup, which was the case for me in many of the companies that I worked.
And setting up an entire function, as you just described, is a major task. What are the first few steps that you have taken to ensure that your strategies, your early strategies for this startup, fall in line with the business strategy?
So first of all, what I've done, for example, in the past, I mostly focused on recruitment because I mostly ended up in a company or got hired in company or got an invitation to join a company because of my recruitment skills, because this is the main expertise that I have. And other things, for example, you need to create recruitment strategy, right? And when I'm talking about the recruitment strategy, I'm talking about investigating what the business needs. It also depends on the type of business. If you're a product company or if you're a service company, you might have different requirements. You might want to hire volume. You might want to grow more organically. It also depends on what kind of industry are you in, the gaming industry, in the software development, depending on the project or on the product that you're developing. So it really depends on the business that you activate in. But yes, one of the first steps that I did is creating a recruitment strategy, a recruitment workflow, deciding on the tools that we want to use, establishing the headcount for, and making some business, some market prospects. So yeah, there are a lot of things that you need to put in place, making sure that you are compliant and in place with everything you need to set up on an admin part. Creating, of course, on an employer branding part, you maybe need to create some visibility for the company if there is none. Maybe create some social media pages and also add content, create content, maintain content. So yes, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but there are a lot of things that you need to do at once.
It's clear there's so many aspects to HR as you have just described. Is you're the only person at this point in time, right? With that's building out the HR function, or has it grown?
No, I also have a colleague in Germany that is also helping. Her focus is more on events and maybe culture and people and admin topics. And I also have all those for Romania, but also am in charge with employer branding and recruitment.
You mentioned building or rather crafting a recruitment strategy that would fulfill the business needs, right? But there's also at least forecasting where the business is headed to, maybe in a year or two, what might be some of the challenges or disruptors that will come in the way. So what might be some ways, in your experience, what might be some ways to think about future-proofing recruitment?
Again, it really depends on the business. So if you're a service company, you kind of need to find a balance between bench and people that are working on projects, in my opinion, because when you're offering software services, so when you're not a product company, you don't always have a clear forecast or visibility on the future. So you might win, you might be in a process of winning a client, and then you're not sure if you're going to win it or not. And then you win it, and then you suddenly have to fire to accommodate that project. You need to hire 15 people. So you might not always have those 15 people on bench. So you actively need to work on to populate that project and also win that project, So that's a different strategy from a product company that might not necessarily have this. Maybe they have a clearer forecast, and they are able to provide you as a recruiter a more clearer forecast on the people they need, because I know that this year I'm planning to add these features to my product, or I'm planning to add this new module. So I kind of know what number of people I'm going to need for that project. But in the service area is a bit more difficult to create a very clear forecast. So for the service industry, I would suggest maybe have a healthy balance between bench and people that are working on projects. So just make sure that you can have a project, maybe hire in advance. Just look into your most difficult roles to fill, for example, developers, or if you have a more challenging technology that is more rare and in demand on the market, maybe just keep that in mind and hire in advance. Even if that person is not working for 2-3 months, but it's a added value when you're gonna have that demand on that project.
And as you said, look out for them early and have enough people on the bench.
Exactly.
And that comes down to the task of approaching the in-demand tech talent today. And I understand from our conversation earlier that Groundfog has reached its talent target mostly through networking, correct?
Exactly.
So when it comes to reaching out to talent who are very much in demand, what might be the best way to communicate the opportunities so that you capture their interest early and you allow them to see the value in joining your company?
So first of all, it also depends where in time you are with the company. If you're a startup, in my opinion, everyone needs to be involved in recruitment, not only the recruiter. It's a thing that starts from the CEO, from the owner. He should be the first promoter of any employer branding initiative and any recruitment initiative, So it starts from the top, and then it cascades with everyone that works in that company. So what happens usually in startups or when new companies are born, usually you start with very trustworthy team, This is the case for Groundfog. This is how it started. And this is something that we want to maintain in time. And then, of course, all the people that work there are involved in recruitment. So they are reaching out. They are seeing what you're doing in the company. Maybe you work with them and you know their struggles. And now they see you having this company and maybe doing things better. And they will want to join. Of course, you also need to present them with everything that a person wants when joining a company. So, of course, you need to keep in mind the financial aspects. You need to keep in mind the technical challenges that you can provide, the career growth. So, when reaching out to someone, of course, we will reach that point in Groundfog when we need to reach out to people. Eventually the networking part will come to a halt. This usually also happens. So just to answer your question quickly, it's something that goes hand in hand with the employer branding and the social media presence. So you have people that actively apply to your roles, but in the tech industry, this is a rare thing happening. Or you have people applying, but they might not be the right profile for you, or they are in a really small number. So you do need to reach out to people. And an effective way of doing so, of course, it will be via social media and having a great network. For example, this is what I do when I start recruiting for a role. I reach out to the people that I worked with maybe in the past, or I kept contact with. So I think this could be the most valuable thing when hiring a recruiter. And if companies are wondering why should you hire a recruiter, it's like with a salesperson. You're not hiring that person necessarily. I mean, you are hiring for their skills and their assessment skills, so all of that, but you're also hiring them for their network. So it's easy for me to get a project right now because whenever I hear someone, it's the way my mind is framed right now. When I hear someone, I need a Java developer, I already have a person in mind. So it's a question of networking. It's a question of keeping those contacts close to you, and having them trust you. And when you're coming up with a role, they will, of course, want to talk to you, but you need to keep that going, and you need to make sure that you build trust, like in any job, in any industry.
You mentioned trust, very trustworthy early group of employees who then showcase what they're doing and then attract that sort of talent organically into the company. I think that's very interesting in the development of an EVP, for example. So it goes back to what you said about employer brand being one of those things that pull in, right? And who are the champions around it. So in your experience, you've already reached your talent target. So what are some steps to take now if you push your attention to developing an EVP? What are some steps to take to develop a strong EVP so that your talent strategy is basically getting people whose culture, fit, and skill are both aligned to the company?
When establishing an EVP, of course, you need to be in touch with the market. You need to be in touch with what people want from a job right now. For example, if we're looking at the trend that happened after the pandemic, it's pretty clear right now that talent market is kind of divided between going back to the office and working from home. I'm pretty sure that we won't be coming back from working from home. This is something that is here to stay. You need to make sure that you are very much in touch with what people want from working in a tech company, right? I personally believe that the days where people wanted to work a 9-to-5 job from an office are over. That's why you need to keep in mind what people need. Of course, when also developing an EVP, you need to make sure that you know what your employees want, right? What's their expectation from the company. It's something that you don't necessarily need to define and put in a folder somewhere. It's something that you need to live up every day. People have different needs, different wants. You need to, as a company, you need to make sure that you're satisfying as many needs as you can. You won't be able to do it all at once for everyone. I mean, at some point, someone will not be happy with the decision that is made, but you kind of need to make sure that you're catering to as much as possible. The next steps that we're taking right now, we are working on, of course, developing programs for learning and development, for events that we want to organize and we want people from Groundfog to be involved in. Of course, we're rethinking this because this is one of our values, rethink. We're basically constantly giving us the opportunity to rethink whatever we have. It's something that we strongly believe in. And right now we are just putting the basis, of what Groundfog should look like, which is a very challenging task because we all come with a lot of information of maybe what we don't want, but we need to define what we want precisely. So it's something that we want to involve as many people as possible, maybe the entire company, because this is also one of our core values. Everyone has a voice. So what I'm trying to say, because it's not something that is streamlined and single-handedly handled by me, and it's not only my vision. It's basically the vision of the entire company, of the people that we have right now. So what we're doing, we're gathering ideas on how to make a place that everyone wants to work in, that is inclusive, that caters to as many needs and as many demands as possible, that is also taking care of people's growth, but also health. I think this is a necessary step when you're a people-centric company that you kind of need to be online with. So also, I'm not sure that I can give you a straight up answer because there are a lot of things happening when you're starting. And especially if you want to involve many people, this process can be stalled a bit, but it's worth it in the end, because when you finally have a final version, an MVP maybe of the product, you make sure you basically are sure that it's very inclusive. And
we also see that employers today, especially post-pandemic, everyone's striving to strike a balance between productivity and well-being. As you mentioned earlier, what would you say is the role of the employer in fostering a balanced and high-performance culture?
I think the role of the employer is very important. When we're talking about high performance, I struggle a bit with this term because high performance can also be used derogatively. It can, when I'm thinking high performance, I'm thinking about people working many hours and overtime. And so I'm not sure if this happens to everybody, but we kind of need to clarify that high performance can also be a healthy and balanced performance. Okay. So this is something that you need to keep in mind if you're an employer and you work with people that they have needs, they have issues, they have a personal life. There's a whole world around them that is maybe not necessarily strictly related to the job. So you keep in mind that you need to support people outside of their daily work as well. And you need to support and understand them and also offer them the possibility to manage their lives around their job, right? And I also think that it's a trust thing, as same as I said earlier. When you have people that you're giving them all the context, all the necessary tools, all the freedom to manage their time, to manage their daily tasks, and also take care of their lives, their personal, their mental health, their physical health, right? They will, of course, appreciate what you're doing. And of course, they are also going to take care of you, of the company and of your customers. So you just need to provide them with all the necessary freedom, trust.
Let's talk about recruitment technology, such as Manatal's and ATS. So how important is recruitment technology for hiring in startups, and what are the benefits that you've seen in your experience?
So first of all, when you're working in the tech industry, it's really impossible to not have also technology in your daily work, right? It's also, we're talking about the number of the people maybe that you want to work. When you have a big target, for example, when you're scaling fast, when you need to hire a lot of people, an application tracking system, as you said earlier, and an ATS helps you, of course, track the candidates that you have. Also, it's a great aggregator for other job boards and job platforms or social media platforms that help you distribute and also share your opening on different platforms. It's really awesome to have everything in one place. It makes your job easier. It also helps you be in touch and also constantly communicate with the candidates, right? Because this is something that usually happens when you have a lot of vacancies. It has happened to me in before. And I know it's a major complaint. I also seen a lot of posts on LinkedIn about recruiters not coming back to the candidates. And unfortunately, this happens. It also happens to me because what people don't understand is the fact that we're dealing with maybe hundreds of candidates when you have like 10 projects and maybe 20, 30 vacancies. Yes, it does happen. It's really, really difficult to keep track. So if you don't have a technology to back that effort up, and if you don't have a tool that helps you organize and helps you keep this communication flowing, and also you are in different stages with different candidates, so this is a great way to organize yourself as a recruiter. And also maybe an ATS has the possibility to also generate some data and some reports that you also need to keep in mind when developing the next recruitment strategy. It's very important to have the data to back that up. So yes, any type of technology and way to automate tasks in recruitment is a blessing, in my opinion.
I'm sure audience would want to know what, especially those who are starting out in recruitment now, what advice would you give someone starting out in recruitment today in this environment?
You really need to love recruitment in order to thrive in this business. You need to love the challenge. You need to, first of all, be resilient and be patient, because recruitment is the type of job that has really high peaks and then really low lows, So, for example, you have a candidate, he just accepted the offer from you, and you're so excited that you managed to close that, and it's a perfect fit for the candidate and for the role. You practically are a matchmaker between the two parties. You really are happy with the fact that you gave an awesome opportunity to the candidate, but you also managed to close that vacancy in due time, and the company is happy. And then the next day or in 2 days, you got a call from the candidate, and then they say, I'm sorry, I accepted another offer because, it was more financially motivating, or it was closer to home, or whatever reason might that candidate have. So in my opinion, when starting in recruitment, you need to maybe study this area a bit, maybe get a mentor in recruitment, maybe talk to a more senior person that is already doing this, and make sure that this is something that you really want to do. Because as I said, it can be frustrating at times, it can be awesome, but it can also be frustrating at times. Also, another major advice that I would give a technical recruiter, especially, learn your technologies. Know what you're talking about, especially when hiring in tech. For example, you need to know the difference between Java and JavaScript when you're talking to a tech person, if you want to be taken seriously by the people that you're trying to recruit. This is something that I struggled a lot in the beginning because I didn't know much about technology. So it's something that I needed to learn on my own. And I learned it from every source that I could, from books, from the internet, from my candidates. And of course, during this time, I got surrounded. Majorly all my friends work in tech and are developers, system engineers, DevOps, QA. So I kind of learned from them. This is really something that I really want to emphasize on. If you want to be taken seriously in this industry, you need to know what you're talking about. So when you're going to interview and trying to assess a tech candidate, you need to know what you're asking and what's the right answer for that as well. So yes, maybe these would be the main advices that I would give a new joiner that wants to start with recruitment. And of course, also be a good salesperson, because recruitment nowadays is not necessarily only based on assessment. You also need to sell the role. So you also maybe get into recruitment marketing and how to sell that role with this very competitive context that we have right now.
You mentioned that you did some self-study and you sort of equipped yourself with the skill to understand technology recruitment. It takes a lot of drive and How long did it take you to gradually get into and get more comfortable being in the technical recruitment space?
It took me around 6 months to maybe a year to be very confident when I get to an interview room. But I still get nervous at times because technologies keep on changing. When I first started, I started with PHP developers. We were hiring for an e-commerce company here in Romania that was growing really, really fast. I knew nothing about PHP, so I started studying. But we were having so many candidates. We were having 20 interviews per week. And this way, I kind of learned the technology really quickly. Of course, I read about PHP, I read about object-oriented programming and functional. So I absorbed the information, but then again, talking to people, it made more sense with candidates and it made more and more sense. And as practice is key, when you have 20 interviews per day, you kind of get into it and you learn exactly the differences between the answers, and you kind of know what to look for. But yeah, I still struggle at times with people that are very, very senior, for example, like architects, or maybe a technology that I didn't recruit so much for, because as a recruiter, you have experience with maybe working on PHP, on Java, on developers, but you don't have any experience with hiring system engineers or DevOps. And at some point you will get this challenge. So you need to kind of start with researching the market, researching about the technologies, and also very important, talk to the hiring technical. They are the first point of contact that you need to have when taking on a vacancy for a technical role. You have to have a kickoff meeting and ask all the questions that you need to find out about that role, about the team, about the technologies, about the priorities, about the role in the team. So get all your information before starting a recruitment for a new role.
Well, those are great insights, and you've been very generous with sharing them. Thank you so much, Irina, for your time and your insights today. I'm sure the audience, wherever they are, they're intrigued to probably find out more about how you build people strategies from the ground up, especially in a brand new startup like you are in today. So where can they connect with you?
They can find me mainly on LinkedIn. DM me for whatever question you might have. Let's connect, and DM me if you have any questions. If you want to learn more, I'm there, and I'm always open to creating new connections and new friends. Why not? New possible partners. So yes, I'm there if you need me.
And we have been in conversation with Irina Constantinescu, who is the people partner for tech recruitment and employer branding at Groundfog in Romania. Stay tuned for more weekly episodes of All in Recruitment, featuring insights and best practices from recruitment leaders across the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia.